back to this already the final segment of The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Of course, you know, big headlines out there in the news, kind of dominating the news, is the whole gun control debate. And President Obama yesterday mapped out some of his future objectives when it came to gun control. This response out there, though, has led to the reaction, if you will, of the Sandy Hook Elementary killing and some of the other killings that are taking place have led to some pretty bizarre things in terms of actions by individuals and even in the media. I've got investigative reporter Dylan Skriloff with me, and he is he's with RocklandTimes.com as well as other publications. And Dylan, interesting news story coming out here rather recently about a newspaper that actually listed the names and addresses of individuals who had concealed handgun licenses.
Yeah, in fact, they're the first newspaper ever to list the addresses. The names that's been done before around the country at a few different newspapers, but and that's also local to me. That's my connection to it. And they put this out about a week after Sandy Hook, 9 days after, just before Christmas. When I read it, I was outraged. I didn't think it was good journalism, but I didn't realize at the time, all over the country, people would have the same reaction. They were really ticked off, and it didn't have much support for what they did, but they're standing by it so far.
Yep, so far they are. So let me ask you, what kind of have you spoken to anyone in the legal field as far as what kind of legal implications could be here in terms of liability, civil lawsuits against the newspaper, that type of thing?
Yeah, we don't think they're going to be successful, but someone might try it. There was a lawsuit filed shortly after because their list isn't entirely accurate. In fact, some parts of the list are very inaccurate because it's a dated permit information. So someone who was on the list but didn't have a gun sued because they said it damaged their reputation because it was a business and they didn't want to be associated with firearms, that particular business. So they sued, but then they dropped it after 10 days. They said they didn't think they had the money to fight the case. So it would take a group that is willing to put up some money. But the First Amendment will probably protect the newspaper because, by all precedent, if a newspaper publishes public records, there's no precedent that I know of to sue them for that because those records could have been attained otherwise.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess even the Pentagon Papers kind of proved that to be the case. So.
Yeah, our business has a lot of freedom, but in this case, it was abused, and that's why it's causing all this anger.
So what kind of fallout have you been checking out? Have you been noticing when it came to this?
Well, one thing is we just put up on our site, RocklandTimes.com, all the letters that were mistakenly sent for us that were meant for them. We got about 20, so we could imagine they got, most of them went to the right source. They must have had thousands upon thousands. So that's just the fallback of people, angry people. Then they had subscribers canceled. They had, we don't know how many, but hundreds, probably thousands, as a matter of fact. We're not exaggerating there. They had a huge volume of people cancel their subscription. And then, probably to top it all off, the state changed the law so that pistol permits will no longer be public record for most people. So now that map went up while it was still public record, so it doesn't affect that map, but it does affect any future newspaper who would want to do the same thing. So that, I mean, that's a pretty big impact when what you do causes the law to go against what you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting.
And also another impact, pistol permit applications have tripled since the map came out because people did not want to be on the map as not having a permit.
Yeah, absolutely, and that makes sense. But I think it also, I think people have come to conclude that if there had been more honest people, good people, if you will, with guns, and circumstances like that, it may have changed that situation. You just never know. I think, the reality is, I think that the gentleman from the National Rifle Association hit it on the head. The only response to evil people with guns are good people with guns, and that's just the reality. And to me, I actually think that so-called gun-free zones should be regulated out of existence, because all gun-free zones are an invitation for people that would do harm.
Well, I think, that's certainly a strong case for that. Historically, there haven't been so many gun-free zones. So that's a new invention, and you keep having shootings at these gun-free zones. So I think you might be onto something, although it's not for me to decide. But I certainly think you have a point.
So let me ask you about, before I let you go, tell me about Rockland Times.
Well, we're a weekly newspaper published since 1888, and we have a website, and now we've been delving into more and more territory as the internet allows you to, and now we have right in our backyard this national story. So I've been all over the news. I've been on Greta Van Susteren show and many radio stations around the country talking about the latest on the Journal News gun map fiasco. By the way, did you know they hired armed guards? That was our biggest scoop on the story. The irony, because they portrayed gun owners as being some kind of menace to society, but then they hired gun owners to protect them when they felt they felt threatened by all the letters they received.
Yeah,
that made a lot of people snicker all over America, I tell you.
Yeah. Irony is certainly part of it. You can't help but see a little bit of hypocrisy as well.
Yeah.
The media is really good at hypocrisy, and they have absolutely no problem with it. They're artists when it comes to hypocrisy.
Yeah. But hey, we're media too, so we get to point it out, and let's hope the future's better than what we have right now with the newspapers pulling stunts like this.
I'm not holding my breath. I'm expecting the media to become more and more a propaganda machine for political objectives rather than for media integrity. So you're in the New York area, Rockland County Times? Yeah,
we're half hour from New York City. Our coverage zone, we're just north of New York City, basically.
Just north of New York City.
Well,
you're in the suburbs, I imagine. So you got a lot of people who commute from your area to work in New York.
We have all kinds of, most of the people who live here, their families moved from New York City, and a lot of people work in New York City. There's a lot of celebrities from New York City who live here. So we're basically part of we're a satellite of New York City. It's different than being in the city, but we're part of that part of the state.
Dylan, thanks so much for being with us. Dylan Skriloff, he's with the Rockland Times. That's ROCKLAND Times.com, RocklandTimes.com, newspaper that has been around.
Those letters that people wrote the Journal News that went to us, it's up now.
Check out the letters over at RocklandTimes.com. The newspaper's been around since 1888, weekly newspaper, and really appreciate you spending time talking to us about it. And we'll put a link over at USDailyReview.com for people to go see those letters as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. I want to encourage everyone to have a great rest of their day. I do want to encourage them to check out, of course, USDailyReview.com, like them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, and, of course, PriceOfBusiness.com. Do the exact same thing. And meanwhile, be back with us tomorrow for more Price of Business.